Make the choice to begin anywhere in your life, and the journey has started. And along the way, be inspired. Listen to the stories by joining the president of Howard University, Dr. Wayne A.I. Fredrick, on The Journey.
This is the home stretch for many graduating seniors. We all remember those days finishing our final papers, exams, and senior projects before walking across the stage. Right now, we have a graduating senior attending classes and working as a frontline responder to COVID-19 patients with Howard University Hospital. This is just one of many students who represent Black excellence here at Howard University. Hello, my name is Dr. Wayne Fredrick, and my guest today on The Journey is Michaella Moore, who's a graduating senior, majoring in biology, and happens to be a Marshall Scholar here at Howard University. Welcome, Makayla.
Thank you.
So the first thing is you're also a double minor
Yes.
in sociology and theater arts.
Uh-huh.
So tell me about that combination, biology major, sociology, and theater arts.
Well, I was at the Mecca, so I figured I had to do everything at least once. No, I've always loved theater. From growing up, I acted a lot when I was younger, and so theater arts for me was a way to get in some arts education while I was here. We have an amazing Department of Fine Arts, and I definitely wanted to be in that environment. And I also wanted to supplement my STEM education. I think that arts and social sciences and you know, your natural sciences, they overlap so much. So I really wanted to engage with that. And sociology, for me, I take a lot of public health courses under that minor. And for me, that was a way for me to really see how can I apply my future medical knowledge to really improve holistic health of, you know, our disadvantaged communities.
So you certainly are embodying what we call STEAM education today, right? Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And so with that in mind, what are some of the things you see as an overlap or complementary by doing theater arts, especially as you want to be in the front line trying to help people with their health?
Of course. I think acting is this way to tap into vulnerability. It's this way for you to understand what it's like in another person's shoes. And I think that's one of the best qualities a physician or a health worker can have. You have to be able to empathize with the people that you're with, even if you may not have had direct experiences with them. So I learn a lot of introspection. I learn a lot of personal and people skills, and really how to understand how people think, how can I help people, even if I may not come exactly where they're coming from. And so art, definitely theater arts helps me in that way.
So tell me how you end up working in the emergency room.
Yeah, so crazy story. I mean, this is just a testament to the network of Howard students and how supportive Bison are. I was a sophomore, and there was a student who was a year above me, and she was a medical scribe at Providence Hospital. And she knew I was pre-med, and she said, hey, you know, I know you're interested. Would you be interested in this job? And I said, of course, like, this sounds amazing. It would be a great experience. And so I started at Providence Hospital until that unfortunately had to close down. And they said, you know what, there's an open at Howard University Hospital. I said, why wouldn't I want to go home and put my skills there? And so I've been working there ever since.
Okay. And you currently are there today.
Yes.
At the hospital. It's a bit surreal walking in, and I know it's hard to describe that to people. I feel like I've grown up in a hospital myself, being a patient, and then obviously operating for the past, you know, two and a half decades of my life. But for you, going into that environment today, describe it for our viewers.
It's definitely, you know, Howard University Hospital is so unique in the spirit that's there in the staff. And I think that's what makes it such a special place, is the laughter and the light and the joy that people are able to bring to the patients and bring to a situation that can help relieve some of that pressure. But it definitely is an environment in which there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of unknown, and the stakes are kind of high in a lot of cases with patients coming in who are suffering from this infectious disease and with providers trying to figure out how to operate with the limited resources that our nation has at this time. So things I've seen, providers who have families at home, they have to change their clothes and worry about, their children when they come home, and different precautions that they're bringing from the outside, and still having to work in that tense environment. But I will say that the staff has been amazing in how they've handled it, and how they've handled it with grace. So I've been privileged to be around them and be in an environment, that can pass that energy to me.
So the first part of what you described in academia, we call that cultural competency.
Yeah.
As a budding sociologist,
Yeah.
That's right up your alley. What's your perspective of what we're seeing nationwide? Here in D.C. in Ward 7 and 8, you have about 95% black. The life expectancy is around, unfortunately, only 72.6 years or so.
Yeah.
You go to Ward 3, where it's 95% white, just a few miles. Nation's capital, literally the Capitol building is in the middle of that.
Yeah.
The life expectancy is 87.6 years.
Right.
What are your thoughts about this health disparity that exists in our nation that now is coming forefront because of the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head when you said this pandemic is really exacerbating the issues that were already underlining in our communities in terms of health disparities. Howard University, like you were mentioning, primarily serves our Black and brown people of DC, and because of that, we know about the disproportionate amount of people with hypertension or high blood pressure and diabetes, which have also been linked to negative outcomes with COVID. And so I think that hospitals like ours are definitely facing more critical patients, and I think that the disparities are a lot due to social issues more so than it is the natural specific science of it. It's the stress levels that we're seeing in our patients. When I take the metro here, I'm mostly seeing Black and brown people still going to work, still doing those essential jobs, right? So what kind of stress is that dealt with, along with the economic disadvantage? You have environmental disadvantage, whether it's pollution or cleanliness of those environments. And so when you couple all of those things together, we already, like you were saying, have a burden of health disparities. And with this infectious disease primarily affecting people with those underlying health problems, our community is definitely being affected more so than others.
Now, this was very disruptive in many ways to all our lives. You personally, what types of disruption did this cause for you?
Yeah, well, so my mom has a lot of underlying health problems, and so when things happened, I had to come to a decision whether I would stay in DC and not go home and make her more at risk, and therefore let go of my job and release kind of that income. And with me being coming from a low income background, that is kind of pivotal for my survival. So there is definitely a decision that I have to make. I haven't been home. I haven't seen my mom since because I can't risk it. I'm still working. I'm still being exposed. I could be a carrier of the virus without knowing, and bringing that to her isn't worth the risk for me. So it's her birthday today, so we were FaceTime messaging and things like that. So I think that family aspect has definitely taken a bit of a toll. Definitely academics wise and balancing working a little bit more now has been a challenge, but Howard has prepared me so much to be able to face this struggle. But I still consider myself so privileged compared to other people. I was able to keep a job, I was able to keep that income. I'm able to graduate and have the privilege of finishing my degree and doing all of these things. I've been fortunate enough not to have a loved one pass from this, but I know classmates who have. So despite all of that kind of turmoil, I've still been in, a very privileged space.
Well, that's a good opening, since you mentioned your mom, who
Yeah.
obviously has been a big influence, and we share that in common. My mom was a nurse for some 51 years.
Oh, yay.
I couldn't get her to retire.
They never did.
But she was a big reason why I got into medicine. My sickle cell plus her being a nurse. Tell me about your influence and
Yeah.
the role that your mom played in terms of the things that you're interested in doing in your future.
For sure. My mom is such an amazing woman. She worked so hard, being a single mom my entire life. And like we talked about, she was a nurse, an RN for quite some time before she retired and went into biomedical teaching. But I grew up in that hospital setting. I grew up seeing her care for people, but I think it was also what she did outside of that hospital setting. It was her organizing, health drives with my church for the members of my church, and people constantly calling her phone all hours of the night, asking her any medical question known to man, and her answering. That really showed me ways that my medical training and my future career isn't just isolated to clinical settings, but how much I can really impact my community in helping relieve some of the tension and the stress within my community in regards to their health literacy. So she was totally, I would say, a light in terms of me understanding really what the impacts are, having Black women leaders in medicine, in STEM, and how I can also be that.
And speaking of community, tell us a bit about where you grew up and the circumstances that existed in that environment.
Yeah, so I'm from Delaware, the greatest state. I may be biased, we're small but mighty. And I was very privileged enough to continually get academic scholarships to attend some of the best schools in Delaware, regardless of my socioeconomic status. And while there were definitely some troubles in terms of microaggressions and of course like racial tensions and just growing up being a Black woman and figuring out myself in these environments, I was privileged enough to have this great education and to be nurtured in different ways, my arts, my STEM, my athletics, all the things that I was interested in. But I made sure to always connect to my roots in so many ways. So I would play basketball, around where I lived with the people that I lived with, and I grew this family with my at-home basketball program that I, did throughout my entire life. So it was a vibrant, it was a diverse community for me because my mom helped me make that so. So I was definitely, privileged in a lot of ways, but there were also hardships. There were some times where I may wake up in the morning and, our car had gotten repossessed and we have to figure out, next steps, but we worked hard and my mother worked hard, and now I'm here, graduating, so.
No, and obviously, Delaware, as you said, it's a smaller state, but clearly you had community and family. Do you remember a particular teacher or a physician that you saw and admired, somebody in that very community who told you, or for that matter, inspired you to go after your dreams?
Yeah, there were so many people in my life that helped guide me towards this eventual career path that I didn't even realize they were doing it then. And one prime example was my pediatrician. And she was this phenomenal Black woman who owned her own private practice. And she was just so dominating, but also so endearing. And she would talk to me, while I was sitting on that bed like she was my mom herself, and then give me a lollipop after. So, making sure I brush my teeth twice, of course. But she really embodied to me and showed me that I had this capability to do this before I even realized it, to the point where, although immediately I didn't know that I wanted to go into medicine before I came to Howard, I knew it was a possibility. I knew I could because I had seen a Black woman do it and do it well before me. And so individuals like her definitely helped guide me to this path and shape me. Most of the women in my life, probably due to my mom's connections, were in healthcare in many ways, my godmother. And so all of those things definitely factored into me coming into this and feeling like I was capable and feeling like I could make an impact here. For sure.
No, middle school tends to be a very critical time of a young person's life in terms of what they may do in their future. What about STEM at that point attracted you versus anything else, especially with your interest in the arts?
Yeah. It felt graspable to me. I enjoyed the challenge. You get a tough problem, you get something in front of you, and then you can make cool things happen, whether that was in a lab experiment in chemistry, making a volcano, or whether that was, me in Math Olympiad. I enjoyed being able to find answers, you know. So many things are open-ended in life. I think sometimes while science is still has so many questions to answer, there are many questions we've been, you know, able to answer with it as well. And so that definitely was a comfort for me. And so going into it, it just became something that I really enjoyed, that I would participate in, and try to incorporate creative, you know, scenarios with it. And by the time I got to high school, that was really where I found my passions in terms of my coursework, along with, you know, of course, my liberal arts and other things.
So just to switch gears a bit, we've spoken about kind of your early development, etc. Now you get here to Howard University. How and why? Why Howard University?
Oh man, why Howard? Geez, I'm so glad, you know, when I think about it. My sister actually, she graduated from Howard University in 2013. So I had really been around a lot of the culture. I mean, I remember walking across the yard during homecoming with my mom, you know, holding my hand, making sure I didn't get lost, seeing AJ and Free, and just being so enamored with the entire campus and the energy in the community. And I was also so intrigued by how it transformed my sister into this vibrant and confident woman. She's a graduate of the School of Business. She still works in DC now. She's where I'm living while I'm, you know, going through this and working. And so I loved that experience for her. And by the time I had entered my senior year, we were definitely, it was 2016, and we were in a polar and a kind of abrasive a political environment, and things were being said across the nation, and even within my own classrooms, that sometimes would injure me. And it made me really realize how valuable it could be to be in an educational environment in which you were nurtured, in which I didn't have to defend my blackness, and in which the faculty were of color and saw me and could nurture me in that way and shape my education towards that. So by the end of my senior year, I mean, it wasn't a competition. Schools, you know, the University of Delaware had laid out a red carpet of financial aid for me to come there, but I knew that I needed to grow into a specific kind of woman to have the impact that I wanted, and that could only happen at Howard University. And that's how I came here, and I got here, and I'm so happy I did.
And so you get here to Howard. What have been some of your seminal experiences since you've been here that really embodied the experience for you and probably really allowed you to appreciate the full growth that you've experienced over time?
Yeah. Oh man, some pivotal experiences. You know, I would say some of them include, one, my involvement with student government. It wasn't originally something that I had saw myself in. When I came in freshman year, I just wanted to survey the seed. You know, it was a big environment. It was overwhelming. I was like, okay, I just want to see where I fit. And I stumbled into student government, and man, was it beautiful to see Black leaders around me working with administration to help make change. And you know, I continue to do it all throughout. And I think another experience would be when I was involved with HU Gear Up, which is a fantastic STEM program here at Howard, and they funded me to go to Dakar, Senegal. And that was the first time I had been outside of the country, the first time I had been to our motherland, and it was a transformative experience. And those things all guided me. Senegal is the reason why I wanted to go abroad and apply to Marshall and Fulbright and other fellowships. And student leadership was what helped get me into medical school when they were talking to me and interested in those experiences. And so all of those things were definitely so pivotal.
So tell me a little bit more about Senegal. I'm always fascinated by the number of students I meet here at Howard University who for the first time left the country because of an academic experience they were getting here. So tell us what GEAR is, and tell us a bit about that trip in Senegal, the types of experiences you had.
Of course. So HU Gear Up, it's a grant-funded program, and the goal is to get minority students abroad doing research and to study our experience being abroad and doing that research. And so I was in Dakar, Senegal, studying a microbiology subject and doing research at the University Cheikh Anta Diop, and I hadn't known a lick of French when I went, so I was plopped there with 3 other students, and they said, you know what, we support you, we love you, but we want you to go through this experience independently. And we did, and we had a blast, and it was actually Ramadan, the month that we were there, and that was such a beautiful experience, seeing almost an entire country dedicated and devoted and really practicing that religion and faith. And so we got to really engage in the community in a way that you may not in some other study abroad programs. I mean, we were going to the homes of the people that we were working with in the lab, and they were taking us to dinner. And when Ramadan ended, they took us to their homes for their family celebrations and things like that. So it truly showed me, one, how large and vast and connected the diaspora is, and how that's where I wanted my work to be, not just here, but globally within the diaspora, so global health. And it also showed me that being abroad it's where it's at. Yeah. You know, those global experiences, they shift your perspective and they help you to really put what you're learning and what you're doing in the big picture.
So you came from small state Delaware.
Small state.
And you are now a Marshall Scholar.
Yeah.
Tell me when you first heard about the Marshall Scholarship, and tell our viewers what exactly is the Marshall in the first place.
So the Marshall Scholarship is funded by the British government. It's a partnership that the U.S. government has with the British government, and each year they select a cohort of about 40 individuals, give or so, depending on the year. And their goal is to take us to the UK, so we can go to any university in the UK and get either a 1-year or a 2-year degree. And so I chose a 1-year degree because I had already committed to medical school and only wanted to defer for 1 year. And I'll be getting my master's in medical anthropology at the University of London. And so I honestly had no idea what the Marshall was when I first heard about it. I had known about the Fulbright fellowship, and that was where I was putting all my eggs in that basket because I had seen a Howard student, a Black woman, get it, and I said, oh, I'm going for it. But there was a very special lady, Dr. Carrie Miller, and she's, you know, helping to lead our Honors and Scholar Development Office. And she said, you know what, I see something in you. I think a lot of these programs would be good for you. You should cast your net wide. And she really encouraged me. I mean, she kept after me. She was like, you should do this. And I was like, okay, I'll give in. And I researched these programs, and I saw that the opportunities, even outside of Fulbright, everything, there was just a plethora available to us that our community hasn't known about for so long. And so I applied, and it was the first interview that I got, and it was the first program I got into, and I knew throughout that whole process that was where I belonged. And so I was ecstatic when I heard about it. I had to explain to my mom what it was when I heard about it. My family still doesn't quite understand a bit, but it just goes to show that so much of our community isn't exposed to these things, and that's why we're not involved. It's not because we're not talented or that we don't have the capabilities, but we have to spread this knowledge and show our Black students that it's available for them.
It's about access, and we're very proud that you are going to represent Howard in that. Now, medical anthropology, what exactly are you going to study? Yeah. And what's your interest and your angle in that field?
Yeah. You know, in so many ways, I'm still discovering what I will be writing that thesis on and what I will specifically be targeting. But I chose the degree because I believe it's a perspective we're missing from our table. And that's just the historical and cultural context of medicine. You know, how has medicine and our view of the body and our view of each other affected why we have health disparities, why we see the certain things? How do all of these different gears work together to create the current predicament that we see in health today? And that's the perspective that I wanted to gain. So I'm very interested in looking at the development of gynecology as a field and how the exploitation of Black women early on has led to what we may see now, which is that disparity. I mean, even in DC alone, the maternal health disparity that we see. How are all of these things historically and culturally built upon each other to get us here? And that can show us how we can undo them and where to target them. So who knows specifically just yet what I will wind up writing on, but I'm really excited for the possibilities.
There's a book I read, I don't know if you've ever seen it. If not, I'll definitely get it to you. It's called Medical Apartheid, and it sounds like
Yep, I have it.
It sounds like you're well on your way to write volume 2. So, you know, I guess as we start wrapping up, you're a graduating senior.
Yeah.
One of the most painful decisions I've ever made as president was to have to cancel commencement under great pressure. And I know I was one of the first presidents to do that, but I knew what was ahead of us, and especially trying to run a hospital, ramp that up, I saw the clear and present danger. Nevertheless, it doesn't take away the pain of it.
For sure.
Tell me how you feel about commencement being canceled, and what would you like to see happen to celebrate your achievement?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, you know, but it's necessary. And I think you see that when you're seeing lives being lost continuously from people not practicing that social distancing. And so, you know, May 9th, as soon as COVID hit the U.S., it wasn't, you know, an option anymore. And so I know that that decision had to be made, and I think people understand that. But, you know, in talking to my class and just the experience, we would definitely want to see a celebration, but we want to see a safe celebration. And I think everybody agrees with that, you know, rushing into something and risking the health of the people there, of our grandparents that come to support us, you know, our parents that come to support us there, that won't help, or rushing and it having to get canceled again. So I think we understand, and patience is a virtue everybody's learning right now. But I would like to reunite with my class one more good time and be there in person in our cap and gowns and really, you know, toss it in the air and say goodbye to an amazing, you know, 4 years here. And so we're all keeping our fingers crossed and praying and looking towards the bright side that, you know, we will have hopefully, you know, something together in person again, you know, later on this year.
And that's my commitment. My commitment is to make sure that at some point, when it's safe enough and appropriate, we'll certainly celebrate the class of 2020, a very special class. Where are you going to go to medical school?
I'll be going to Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania. So I am so excited for that. I mean, it is an amazing school that really values having minority physicians be just that, be who they are, and cultivate them into leaders in medicine. And so I can't wait to get there. Almost can't wait. Definitely going to enjoy my time in London, but I'm excited to be there.
Just last week, had this not happened, I would have been there as a visiting professor giving a talk invited by a very special friend of mine who's in the Department of Surgery there.
Wow, that's
and
so
so I look forward to rejoining my colleagues there at some point.
Yeah.
So every Howard student, faculty, staff, or alum who I get to interview, I always have to close with the simple question.
Yeah.
Why Howard?
Yeah. Howard is unlike any environment that I've ever been in, and I doubt that there will be an environment that matches this place. And it's a culmination of things. It's the experience of the people that you will have here, the network, the commitment to making you a leader in your community in that truth and service. We're not just educating you, you know, we're not just giving you that book knowledge, but it's about life knowledge. It's about making you somebody who will impact your community. The faculty here have cultivated my journey in ways that I can't even imagine. It's that care from the individuals around me, from my professors that have shaped me and that make Howard this incomparable place. And so that's why Howard, that's why I talk to so many future baby bison, HU24, come on through. I'm so excited, we're so excited to have you because this place truly will change your life. It changed mine, it changed my sisters, and hopefully it'll change my kids, but you know, I won't pressure them.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being here. My guest today was Michaella Moore. She's a graduating senior, major in biology, and a very, very proud Marshall Scholar from Howard University. Join me next time on The Journey.
This program was produced by WHUT, Howard University Television, and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.